well. Today is the 6th day of Adar, and it is February 27th. So today is the second reading of Parashat Tetzaveh. And I'm sorry about the internet connection, which is terrible, but this is all I have right now. And so let's say a few words about this week's parsha. We'll start it off. The parsha is called Tetzaveh, you shall command. And it starts off in a different way than most of the parashot in the Torah start. Usually we have some kind of verse where God addresses Moshe in some way. He addresses him and he says, Vaydaber Hashem and Moshe, that God said to Moses and so on. Here it just starts off with the second person, you shall command. And the sages note that this is the only parsha in the entire Torah since we met Moses in Exodus, where his name does not appear at all. The name Moses does not appear even once in this week's parsha. And the way that the sages understood this was that this was a result of Moses saying to God that if you're going to destroy the Jewish people because of the sin of the golden calf, then eradicate my name from the Torah that you're giving. So it's a very interesting statement. So they're saying that because Moses made this, call it a threat, that if you're going to destroy the Jewish people, then erase my name. So even though in the end God did not destroy the Jewish people, of course, still what a tzaddik says, something that Moses said, even if it was on a condition, had to have some impact in the world. And the impact was that his name was erased from one parasha, from one entire Torah portion. And that's our Torah portion this week, V'ata Tetzaveh. Of course, the interesting question about this is that we haven't read about the sin of the golden calf yet. We're only going to be reading about it next week in Parashat Ki Tisa. So how is it possible that if God is erasing his name, he's erasing it, the parsha, before the sin even happens? So it's commonly understood that this is an example that God provides the healing even before he gives the affliction. In other words, even before they even came to the situation in which they were going to sin, he already provided what in the end would become the remedy. The remedy being Moses' tremendous self-sacrifice to being able to save the Jewish people by saying to God, if you're not going to save them, then erase my name. On the face of it, erasing the name means that he's not here. He's not present. But in fact, not only is he present, when God addresses him in the beginning of this parsha, it's directly to you. It's a very uncommon way of speaking, as if he's speaking face to face. And you shall take, and you shall command. This directness is actually the result of Moses' self-sacrifice and his willingness to erase himself, to nullify himself. When a person's willing to nullify himself, what he's really nullifying is the external expression of his essence. There is the way that the person is essentially, his essence, and we don't have very many opportunities in life to really come to know our essence. And when we nullify ourselves, we're erasing the external expression of that essence. And so actually we have a more direct way of coming to know ourselves. So the idea here is that by Moses nullifying himself, he actually appears even more strongly. And there's a tremendous allusion to this in this week's parsha, that in a sense, the whole parsha is an encapsulation, like a condensation of the entire Torah, because the words V'ata Tetzaveh, they equal Bereshit. The first two words of our parsha equal the first word of the entire Torah. V'ata Tetzaveh equals Bereshit. And the last word of the Parsha is Yisrael, just like the last word of the entire Torah. So in a sense, what happens in this week's Parsha is that everything that is Moses, Moses is himself the Torah. So it's as if he comes down to his very barest essence. And the entire Parsha, where his name does not appear even once, actually encapsulates the entire Torah, the purpose of his entire life. Because even the book of Genesis, which happens as it is before Moses is born, is something that he wrote. So they had a tradition about this book, but I think we saw this earlier, 3 weeks ago in Parshat Mishpatim, he wrote the book in a prophetic way. He wrote it and he elevated it to a whole new level. So even the book of Genesis, book of Bereshit, is also his handiwork. I want to end with a final thought here about how his essence comes out. The essence of Moses is to nullify himself. We always say that Moses is wisdom. The experience of wisdom in the psyche is an experience of self-nullification, of not taking up space. So it's actually Moses coming to his greatest essence, is his ability to nullify himself. Where is this important? This is especially important when we talk about somebody who is an intermediary between us and God. In principle, we know that Judaism does not hold so much by intermediaries, but it's not entirely true, because there is an intermediary. The first intermediary was Moses himself. Afterwards, it's all the tzaddikim, all the great people, all the great leaders that we've had during the generations. Why do we not say that they are something that comes to divide, to separate us between us and God? Because their essence is one of nullification. What does that mean? It means that they all take upon themselves that if need be, they would disappear. They and their entire life and their whole mention would disappear from this world, if that's what was needed in order to connect the people with God. So for that reason, we call them an intermediary that connects, as opposed to other types of leaders and people who take responsibility, but who are not willing to give up their essence. They want to go down in history. So they always want their name to be retained. That type of intermediary is someone who is an intermediary who blocks or who separates. In Hebrew, we call these memutza mechaber and memutza mafsik. Especially when we're talking about the leadership among the nations of the world, that they also had types of prophets. But all these prophets, like Bilam, what they want in the end that their name should be retained. Whereas the true leadership is one that's willing to be forsaken to the point where nobody even remembers his name. So thank you very much for joining today. I'm sorry about the internet connection. Hope to have it fixed by tomorrow. And hope to see you tomorrow again. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, Rabbi.